Hello, this is Decoherent, and welcome back to some more Torment Tides of Numenera. So, I was skimming the previous episode, and at the beginning I said something like, I can't believe this is still going, which sounded kind of whiny, but really I was just blown away that we weren't at the obvious semen ending. I mean, you would have expected something like, step through door, exposition, crisis, push the button, huge set piece cinematic, roll credits. And that wasn't what happened, so that's awesome. So last time, and these summaries are starting to get kind of long, we ended up in a room that looked just like the beginning one with the cool movable floor here. We used a machine that made copies of me to get to the stasis chamber in the middle that held the ghostly woman, which turned out to be an echo of Mika, the Changing God's daughter. So that was cool, and when we left there was an argument between the First and the Changing God in front of a Stargate, and we went through the Stargate and ended up here, which is the 3 doors from the very beginning, and that's pretty cool. These are a mirror, I think that this one was, and this one probably will be too. We ended up in the Changing God's laboratory, we poked around at some stuff, the sorrow showed up, and we ran away bravely. Then we ended up here. So, once we came back, we talked to the ghostly woman, and she is now the full disembodied consciousness of Mika, as she says, not an echo. So, yes. That's pretty cool. So, off we go. The light around the door's frame dims and flares, like roaring fire in a high wind. As you approach, the bars of the door shudder and bend. It wants to let you in. Well, okay. Well, press me behind on the surface and will it to open. The door doesn't open at your touch. Instead, you're drawn into the door itself. Oh, neat. I love this format. A world revolves far below you, a sunset in scarlet flaring on the horizon. To the east, deep indigo shadows fall, painting the planet with darkness. The faintest shimmer of a force screen distorts your vision, and the exhalation of the station pushes warm, moist air across your skin. With a shock, you realize that the view before you is almost identical to the world you saw as you fell to the earth, just slightly higher. You hold an intricately filigreed metal staff. Its carvings slither under your fingers, as if it were alive. You are in a great hall that is more like an organic space than a constructed room. Machinery literally sprouts from the walls and floors, with no sign of where the synthetic metal gives way to the substrata from which it's grown. Although humid, the hall feels clean and fresh, healthy and vibrant, full of promise. A holographic map of the moon hovers at the back wall, near a small glowing pod. A voice speaks as though from the air itself. Are you certain this procedure will give you final control over the cast-offs? If you're mistaken, the chamber may fail, or, worse, detonate with you inside. The voice is familiar, but you can't quite put your finger on its identity. Huh? What are you talking about? You had me run the calculations, remember? I told you there was a slight chance it might explode with you inside, and although the chances were vanishingly slim, and... Come on, it was only the other day. I realize you've got a lot in your mind right now, but we need to focus. We've been trying to get this right for years. Centuries. The resonance chamber is ready inside us. We just need to make sure this body will work as a catalyst. If something happens down there, I'll signal you to move to the next vessel. And if you don't get out in time, well, you got me. Let's hear it for redundancy. For now, just settle into the pod, and we'll make sure this body will work for us. You've pinpointed the source of the voice. It's coming from the staff in your hands. You peer at it more closely, and you see a small, glowing, ghostly image, the holographic advisor from the other mirror. No, this advisor looks different. Augmented. It has the ghostly blue-limbed, smoky appearance of the Spectre. It is the Spectre. Okay, let's try to remember how this staff works. You study the staff, and it feels like coming home. It's a familiar friend, a comforting ally. It's the cornerstone to this moon, a key to every lock. You know that it copies your mind weekly, serving as a fail-safe and a familiar, a consciousness that is your natural ally. Oh, cool! When it speaks with the Spectre's voice, and when it must manifest, it can create a ghostly image of the Changing God's original body. Holding it, you feel safe and in control. Well, that's pretty cool. So I know what we're doing, but why don't you just remind me how this process works? We're going to run the final assessment on this body. Complete scans, review, title adjustment if necessary. We'll verify all the parameters are within tolerance, so just settle into the pod, and I'll take care of the rest. Okay, let's play it cool. Step on into the glowing pod. You glance around the great hall one last time. your gaze lingering on the map of the station, and walk to a small chamber in a vast hallway. A deactivated construct stands nearby in a state of partial disassembly, its hand thrust out as if an offering. Near the large control panel outside, a column of spongy scarlet discs hover silently, reminding you of nothing so much as giant blood platelets or congealing scabs. Ugh. You take a deep breath and step into the pod. The staff in your hand vibrates slightly, and you feel yourself bathed in energies. Remain calm. This is all within normal parameters. The minor explosion that follows surely is not. Sudden klaxons glare. The nearby platelets vibrate furiously, and the deactivated construct's arm begins to smoke and flame. Get out! The sorrow's going to destroy you! Uh-oh. Your nemesis manifests in the great hall. Its form is tenuous, wispy as it congeals. It gains solidity in fits and starts. The moon's internal defenses are slowing it, but they will not be strong enough to keep it out. As you watch, the sorrow shrugs itself past another line of defenses, jerking itself towards a more terrible reality. Its focus snaps towards you. It coils and writhes, desperate to wipe you from existence. Get to another body! Go! Okay, let's try to grab this stuff. Maybe they'll be helpful? You take a hold of one of the discs. Your fingers sink into the spongy material, and, with a slight twist of your wrist, you detach it from the column of energy that holds it. It hums and cycles in a pitch that makes your eyes my eyes shudder? It's a weird word. With each cycle, the disc shifts your vision, changing the colors you perceive. The tides churn within you as you hold it. It may have some effect on the sorrow. Okay, let's poke at our really spiky construct here. The construct itself is beyond repair, but a quick study reveals that each of the construct's limbs were designed for independent power. So even though most of the construct is quiescent, its spiked, powered hand is not. Working quickly, you detach it from the construct's frame. It will be a suitable gauntlet. The powers that course through it may serve to delay the sorrow's advance. Okay, good. Have some tools at my disposal, at least. Okay, let's take a look at this map. It's a multi-level projection. Its orientation and layout is prepared in a way that's naturally pleasing to your eye, and you trace the route to a nearby escape cocoon without difficulty. You'll have to remember the layout of the halls, but the map is clear enough that you think you can remember the route. Time to go! You feel the moon shudder, and then you feel it tear. The alarms in the great hall have begun to strobe, the lights flicker. The moon's suddenly moist air suddenly shrieks past you. The sorrow has breached its walls. Uh-oh. The hallway branches, with countless offshoots piercing the winding passages of the moon. You know that your escape lies down one of these routes. Your study of the map puts you in good stead here. You count down the passages, and every landmark that you expect arrives when you expect it. As you race through the halls, you see a small slot in the wall. It holds a firm green gel that you know contains some kind of memory. Let's grab it quick as we run past. You press your forehead to the gel. It soaks into your skin, leaving behind the dry viridian paste. And you are constructing the staff you hold. The specter speaks over your shoulder. This is strange, isn't it? Knowing that I'm watching you make my home, that I'm going to be updated in a week with your experiences, that my consciousness will fill this moon, and thus so will you, in an unbroken, indefinite chain. You say, I don't hold any illusions about the sanctity of consciousness, but then, you know that already. He laughs aloud. This conversation is turning into a solipsist. You smile. Well, we've been called worse. The memory fades. Okay, let's keep running. Go, go, go! You pound into the bay. The door is shutting behind you. Your breath comes hot in your chest. You double over to catch your breath. Several cocoons are arrayed along the outer wall. You'll need to activate one, and it will spin its webbing around you. The smart membrane is tough, heat resistance, and it will transfer the entirety of the kinetic force away from you at the moment of impact. You see an injection of some kind, but it's across the bay. You might not have time to reach it. The sorrow tears apart the wall in a fury of light and tidal energy. The flickering energies inside its hood betray no emotion except hunger. It is inexorable. The most you can hope to do is slow it. Okay, let's throw the platelet at it. You hurl the platelet across the bay. The instant it leaves your fingers, it begins to change shape. It becomes a cloth, a shroud, and it curls over the sorrow, enveloping your enemy. It molds itself across the creature like a giant scab, fixing the sorrow in place. For a moment, you dare hope that you have arrested its motion, but the scabrous fabric cracks, peels, and falls to the floor in a pile of organic flakes. You have only one defense left. You can hardly trust that it will be enough to get you to the cocoons and off this doomed moon. Better to run straight for the only hope of escape. Yes, but... The stuff could be important. Let's try to get to the injector thing.
That's the stuff.
You race across the room and snatch the syringe from its case. Reading the label, you see that it's a stimulant designed especially for a cast-off. It confers heightened awareness, resistance to pain, and improved accuracy and focus. And your reason, if you use it now, it's in your own body. You might carry it into the future, if you survive the present. You slap the injector into your thigh and trigger it. You feel instantly calmer, and the world is brighter, and you can hear the sorrow's inexorable progress. You have a few bare moments before it comes. The sorrow recovers all too quickly from your previous attack, and comes for you again. Alright, gauntlet time. Throw down the gauntlet? Haha. You slip the gauntlet over your hand, and hold it out in a warding gesture. The energy that blasts from it tears the sorrow apart, decohering it utterly, stripping your foe to its component filaments. Huh, I honestly didn't think that'd work, mutters the specter. Silence reigns in the bay for a moment, and then the sorrow manifests again, threads of acid smoke weaving themselves together. Guess not. Go, go, go! You slip into the cocoon, activate the ejection sequence, and trigger it. The membrane embraces you, forcing you to drop the staff, and it begins to slide free of the killing ground of the moon. Then your tattoo blazes as if it's tearing open, an onslaught of the tides, all in blue and silver, a stream of information too fast and too large to process. A mighty blast buffets the cocoon, and you feel one of the sorrow's inky tendrils caress your cheek and burn into your mind, searing away knowledge and memory, even as you tumble towards the earth. Amidst unspeakable pain, you feel something new forming within you, but you lose consciousness before you can identify what it is. So what is this? Wonder if that was the changing god moving in? No, I'm already the changing god. Huh.
Stop looking at me, Tiber. It's not going to happen.
Can't a man
Guys, this is serious.
of a beautiful woman?
This woman is wondering if her knives
Hello.
might enjoy a little exercise.
It's the Spectre. I'd hoped you'd open that for me. And here we are, the Spectre says, and his voice is not tied to his body. It pours from the walls around you, from the shifting floor beneath your feet. It's time for some hard truths, child. Before he can finish, the air twists in the room, an explosion of light, and a scarred figure steps out of it. Oh, hi, Marilla. How's this for truth? Her voice is worn and hard behind her mask. The resonance is mine. It belongs to me and all cast-offs. I've worked too hard for it to be otherwise. Stand aside, old man, and let us determine our own destiny. The Spectre's smile is disconcerting. Your destiny? You are a part of me. Your destiny was never yours to determine, and the resonance is not yours to claim. He gestures a hand in your direction. Only the latest cast-off can open the door. That body and I are the only ones capable of using the power beyond. You're out of your depth, Marilel, and this no longer concerns you. He ignores her and turns to you. I need you to open the door, and you've done that. The cage I can handle on my own. The cage? His voice presses down on you like a hand, as if trying to drop you to your knees. When I enter the resonance, it will be to return my errant children to my mind where they belong. Leave me to it, and we have no further quarrel. What do you say? Yeah, you'd think someone who calls himself the changing god would learn from his mistakes. Irritation flashes across his translucent face. I'm not here to debate who I am or what I've done. I'm here to claim what's mine. The ground rumbles menacingly beneath your feet. And what is that exactly? Asks Mika. The Spectre looks at the ghostly form of the changing god's daughter, as if noticing her for the first time. His surprise is a brief chill wind, whipping across the darkness between you. You, he mutters. You're her ghost, the one that haunts me. My daughter's dead, do you hear me? I can't bring her back, no matter how hard I try. The ghostly woman, is that so? She has nothing more to say, but her brow crinkles just slightly. She's confused, as if she doesn't recognize the Spectre as her father. Is that creature my father? He looks like what I remember, but he doesn't feel... The Spectre shakes his head. Enough. I don't wish to fight you, Cast-Off, but neither will you keep me from this. What will it be? Yeah, she is your daughter. She told me that. The Spectre hardly looks at her. No, he says. She's not real. I want her to be, but wanting doesn't change anything. My daughter is dead. Now, will you let me enter the resonance peacefully, or must I force my way in? Oh, that could have... The backup... That must have been what was dumping into my head. So that's not even the changing... I don't know. Okay, the resonance is not yours to claim. The real changing god died when I was born. You're just a backup of his memories. Chalcedon, that's who this guy is. Ridiculous, the Chalcedon growls. I've served our sire for centuries. This is him. You speak in simple terms, the Spectre says, arching an eyebrow. But you're dense, even for one of my cast-offs. I am the changing god, and you are standing in my way. Rin says, if you were truly this changing god, then this woman, she points to the changing god's daughter, even if this woman were just a memory, she should recognize you as her father, don't you think? Rin looks kindly on the ghostly woman, and then back at the Spectre. But I saw it. I saw it on her face when you challenged her. You're a stranger to her. The Spectre flinches and turns to face her. She meets his eyes blinking once, and shakes her head. You're not her, he says, and then with more force, he repeats himself. You're not her! Of course you don't know me! He turns his head from you entirely, staring into the dark. Okay. Remember speaking to you, you're the assistant. Consciousness needs to be continuous. I don't think they care about that. Let's see here. If there's any error, it's me. I've been able to change the past. That's cool. You need me in ways the changing god wouldn't. Be honest. Wouldn't have lost when we fought. Let's try to just needle him a little bit first. So, be honest. Don't you have any doubts? Of course I do. Your careless creation has left me, trapped here. I've had to fight for every inch of control. He turns grim eyes to the darkness above and sighs. Okay. Let's kind of keep pushing here. I remember speaking to you on the moon. You're not the changing god. You're an assistant, an update. He answers slowly. And I said the conversation was turning us into a solipsist. And we said we've been called worse. His voice sharpened. But we also said that we hold no illusion about the sanctity of consciousness. That remains true. Yeah, except you need me in ways the changing god wouldn't. You couldn't activate the resonance chamber without me, nor even open the door. You oversimplify. The accident made me a prisoner here, and now, a short time later, I have control here, in the very root of your mind. But there's something new in his eyes. Fear. Enough of this, he mutters, but there's no anger left in his voice anymore. No fire, only a great weariness. His gaze moves from you to the others in the room. You're right. At first I convinced myself that I wasn't whole anymore, that something had broken in me, or been left behind. He stares at his hand, or through it. But it makes sense. I'm not him. I'm close. I'm as close as anyone. But the changing god is dead. Whoa.
Making a note.
The Spectre lets his hand fall. Bit by bit, he begins fading away. Is it true, then? Has our sire been gone all this time? He studies you for a moment. It would seem you and I no longer have a quarrel. Whoa. You did it. He's gone, she barks a short laugh. You've accomplished something I could never achieve. I suppose I owe you my gratitude.
Hey, it looks like you've got this, and I...
Rin looks anxiously over her shoulder, as though someone had called her name.
I can't stay. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm glad I got to see you one more time, though.
Oh no, Rin, why can't you stay? Ha! I wasn't just sitting around waiting to rescue you, you know. I was actually in the middle of something. She adjusts her pack and glances over her shoulder again. Anyway, this is your world, not mine. You know that. We ever gonna meet again? She bites her lip. I hope so. Keep Teria on you. Maybe if you need me, well, he called me once, didn't he? She glances behind her again. Even if he doesn't, you will always be with me. I wouldn't be who I am without you. Suddenly, she lunges forward and throws her arms around you. It's amazing how tall she is. Taller than you, even. She kisses you on the cheek. When she pulls back and smiles, Her tears are hardly noticeable.
Farewell, my friend. My home and hearth and bread are forever yours.
A portal opens suddenly. The bright light and trees you remember from before spill out of it. She waves one last time and turns to step through it. Oh, Rin. Damn it. Okay, well, anyway. You guys have anything to say? Well, you gonna do it? Or do I have to kill you and open it myself? You won. Now, do what you came to do. We no longer have any quarrel. Do what you came here to do. Team, you got anything to say? Tiber? Alright. Alright. The ultimate doorway. Alright, here we go.
On it.
Pulsing waves of heat roll down the stairs, and you feel a low, continuous whirring that's somewhere between a sigh and a melody. The door is singing as though welcoming you back. Even in this low light, the wheel at the bottom of the door fairly glows. You feel your palms tingle at the sight of it. Something clicks in your mind, and the door answers. Hidden gears spin behind the cage. The door is opening for you, and you alone. Here we go. Uh-oh. That's never good. The sorrow is here in its full power, wearing the unquiet psyches of its victim like a tattered cloak. Filaments of light and energy leak from it, strange colors that correspond to no tides you know. Its tendrils flutter and flap in an unseen breeze. You came before me at last, yet we have met so many times before. I didn't know you could talk. Its voice is a hissing multitude. One voice stands atop the rest, a woman's voice, soft and deep. It gives me no pleasure to meet you in this place, but you and your kind have left me no choice. Every body your sire creates abuses these forces you call the tides. They draw energy from those around them. In doing so, you weaken the seals and energy you do not comprehend. You increase the amount of suffering in the world. Every attempt at mitigating that damage has failed. Every step results in misery. You are the first in millennia to hear me speak in an embodied language. You are persistent, tenacious, and durable, so perhaps words will suffice where destruction has failed. It is time to bring this experiment in immortality to a close. While the creature speaks, its thoughts assault you, crushing your mind in an alien embrace. It takes an extreme effort of will to shut them out, just so you can speak. What? Yeah, weaken the energy and seals you don't understand. If I learned anything from the Wheel of Time, that's a bad idea. Okay, hey there, scary lady. I'm just trying to stop the abuse of the tides. Are you? We shall see. I know what they say of me. Destroyer of civilizations, death's mistress, soul taker, ender of the circle. Yet I take no pleasure in destruction. My pursuit of your kind has been solely a matter of expedience, but you have come this far despite my efforts to stop you. I will give you a last chance at an alternate solution. Okay. When Adiris asked you what one life mattered, you replied that each life is important, a world of potential. We shall see if you stand by those words. What are you? I am a guardian, a protector, a legacy of a forgotten people, tasked to watch over that which they failed to defend. Why are you here? When you escaped me on the moon, I placed a piece of my health here as a last resort. I have ridden here in your mind since then. Indeed, I could not have found the moon had you not returned to it in the mare, bringing me along with you. I called myself to myself in that reality, breaching the station's defenses to close the loop of time that brought me here. All to ensure that the power of resonance is not abused, that your kind does not worsen the world again. Holy crap! So, when it stuck the brain squids in, I had to complete a time-like loop. If I hadn't gone back through the mirror, it wouldn't have gotten on the station to attack me to plant the brain squid. Holy shit. So, what is this place? This place is the central chamber of your collective mind space. It is the resonance, the true expression of which your resonance chamber was but a shadow. In this place, you touch the knowledge and strength of every cast-off ever created. Okay, we were just talking about Adiris. She said that she never used a tidal surge in her life. How did she abuse the tides? The surges are one manifestation of that suffering, but your kind draw and distort the energy of the tides at a level you cannot understand. Her passage left lovers squabbling, children crying, and conflicts escalated that might have been avoided. Although she suspected this truth and sought the shelter of Mile Vest, even she has been the author of invisible miseries. Every one of you is the same. Trying to stall here. So I convinced the specter that the true changing God is dead. Is this true? It is late to speak of truths and identities. The one you call the specter was the embodiment of the changing God's life and memories. When you convinced him he was dead, that became true enough. All that remains of the changing God, all that he is and was, is here, now, and in the labyrinth. Alright, so what happens now? It is up to you. The question is, with what purpose have you come? Oh. I came here to stop you from hunting us. Kinda. I came here to end the tidal abuse caused by our bodies. Came here to stop the changing God from snuffing out our existence. Yeah, that's basically it. Or I never meant to come here. Frankly, I came here to keep the changing God from exterminating us. It pauses for a moment. The fate of the cast-offs hang by a precarious thread. Tread carefully. Okay. My sire believed that subsuming all of the cast-offs into himself would stop you from hunting us. Is this true? It sounds almost thoughtful. Perhaps, for a time, if he could resist making no further cast-offs. But I've trailed him across the centuries, and I know that he could not resist. The lure of new experience is too strong for him to resist. He would awaken me again and again. Okay, on the flip side, the first said that severing the connection between us would stop you from hunting us. Is that true? The connection of which she speaks is the labyrinth itself. You would no longer draw your power from this place, and my pursuit of you would cease. Your sister's solution would have shattered this place. It would have destroyed the tidal seals that protect the populace from madness. My charter is to guard those seals, to protect that energy. Had her plan actually worked, it would have destroyed the minds of thousands. I will not allow that to occur. Whoa. Okay, so what if the cast-offs were subsumed into someone who wouldn't perpetuate the cycle? Could you find such a person? I would consider it an ideal solution. Yet consider the space. The sorrow's arms sweep across the resonance, strangely aflutter, their movement bending your perceptions. This is a space too large for any mortal mind. Even one fractured through reality cannot hold it all. Only someone already attuned to the labyrinth might successfully contain your minds. Only one of your kind. Mika? What? I mean, that's an odd question. That's an odd question. Let's ask it. Someone attuned to the labyrinth could contain the minds of the cast-offs. Does that include Mika? She has no body, but if you were to allow her to rise to the surface of your mind, to take your body, then it would be possible for her to absorb these experiences, though I do not know if it would cure the illness that spurred your father's experiments. That's weird. Okay, is there another way to sever the tidal connection? The resonance chamber was a blunt instrument. Alone, it would have shattered and destroyed the labyrinth. The resonance, however, is a sharp edge. It can sever the connection cleanly and without harm, eliminating your kind and the threat you pose to the integrity of the tidal energies. It is the wise choice. Alright, so how do I choose? I have entwined myself through every piece of this place. It is mine. Tell me your choice, and I will make it reality, if I approve. Okay. So, if you'd prefer that we all die, why don't you just sever the connection? I have manifested here, but I do not control the resonance itself. I am the lock on the door, while your thoughts are the key. Your will remains paramount in this place. I can resist your choice, but I cannot make the choice for you. Resist it, huh? And if you don't approve of my choice? then I will oppose you with all my strength. That is why I'm here. Wow. Okay. I think I'm ready to make my choice. The sorrow ripples in the mental breeze that flows from your confidence. I await your decision. Okay, let's take a look here. I'll finish the Changing God's work and merge them all into my head. Yep. We're Cancer, several the tighter connection. None of these choices are right. I want to put everything back the way it was. Pfft. The only one blameless in all of this is Mika, the daughter of the Changing God. Well, that's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah, she really didn't have anything to do with this. Okay, we can choose the first to merge into, or into Makina. Those are two terrible choices. So... well... I'd hoped that we could come in here and break something and we'd all go on our happy way, and that didn't work. Changing God thought he would suck us all into his brain, and I stopped that from happening. I guess I could keep everyone in my head. Suppose that's an okay outcome for me. The other people might not like it very much. Don't seem to have a lot of options, though. Okay, I'll finish the Changing God's work and merge all the cast-offs into my own consciousness. Stop, right there, stop. How dare you make a choice for the rest of us? You're the youngest cast-off, the least experienced. You would snatch our lives from us because of your immaturity and your egotism. Each of us should have a right to determine our fate. She shakes her head sadly. You're as bad as the man who created us. Worse, even, because you know our consciousness exists separately from his. Makina's throat works, and she swallows before she says, Sister's right. I hate to agree with her after, well, everything, but you don't know enough about any of us. I've been with you for long enough time to know that you're not emotionally or mentally equipped to make this decision. Choose something else. You've known me for like 5 minutes. Wench. Their protest is not without merit. Your life is short, your experience is few. You wield the choice with the power to kill many, and you choose to spare your own life. Your sire discovered that the profusion of cast-off lives drew my attention. He knew that creating more would increase my activity, yet he persisted through the centuries. I have no assurance that you would not resume this pattern. That's a valid point. Before I permit this, answer me one question. Why have you made this choice? Okay, I know my mine. The other cast-off live a long time, I haven't had a chance to live mine. That should be preserved, I'll honor them. Honestly, it's because I don't want to die. I don't have to justify myself. There doesn't seem to be a right answer here. Well, I know my mind. I'm the only one I trust never to make any new cast-offs. The first turns her mask towards you as she appraises your statement. Then she nods sharply. It's possible. I might be tempted. A tendril snakes across her eyes. Perhaps. You've shown a concern for others in this life. Now that you know the harm you would cause to countless individuals, perhaps you could resist the lure of immortality. The sorrow is quiet for one terrible moment. If this is your will, I do not choose to oppose you. Let it be done. Makina, no! I don't consent. I've struggled through my life. I've fought, I've bled, and I've killed just to survive. And he's going to cast my life aside? How dare you? How dare you kill me with a word after all that I've suffered? Ooh, that's a good point. You're going to die anyway. I pulled you from Torment. It's my choice, and you don't have any choice in it. Yeah, frankly, you were going to die anyway, Makina. I saved you from endless betrayals in the labyrinth. Your life was at an end. How does my choice change that? She sags, almost boneless. She whispers, It doesn't. But watching your death roll inexorably towards you, roll toward you without any hope of stopping it, is just so much harder than encountering it in the moment. I don't want to die. She turns away. But then, neither do you. And you're less damaged than the rest of us. So be it. The sorrow stretches its arms. Prepare yourself. The lights that dance through its form coalesce. The tormented minds that hang within it begin to stream away, drawn to some hidden singularity at the heart of the chamber. The sorrow dissolves thread by thread into that invisible whole, decohering into a lattice, a ring, a nearly incomprehensible language of symbols and thoughts laying its purpose bare. A pure white light glows at the heart of the resonance, reaching towards you. The light envelops you in a soft embrace. The walls of the labyrinth collapse around you. You become this singularity. And the minds of the surviving cast-offs trickle toward you, a stream, a torrent, a flood, a tsunami of experience and memories that stretch across centuries and worlds unimagined, and you remember it all. The pain and tragedy and suffering and triumph, all the motes and dreams of countless others trying to leave their mark on the world. The torrent continues as you surrender control. The memories of cast-offs you've met, the ones you will never meet, fill your mind and overwhelm you. You taste their bitter notes and the sweet, the knowledge of solitude and the death of friends, every life, every love, every enemy. The first kiss, the first broken heart, the triumph of justice served, the ashen thrill of revenge realized, sadness, joy, fear, anger, the secrets hidden and the truths revealed. All their memories and hopes congeal and compress into you. They threaten to overwhelm you, a rising tide of demands and wills honed by centuries of life, all of them trying to assert their personalities and their histories. You struggle to retain your identity amidst the welter of confusion and time. After an eternity of will, a moment frozen in stasis, you drown out the cacophony of experience. You've triumphed. And then, the memories are gone. Only your mind remains, woken, cocooned in radiance. Wow. Thought you were going away. You awaken on the cold floor of the Memavira's fortress. When you open your eyes, vertigo assails you, and a momentary panic when you realize the sorrow hovers there, its tendrils coiling and twisting. That's a bit more of a momentary panic, just saying. You sit up. The detritus of the battle surrounds you, but you feel a quietness in the room, a lack. It takes you a moment, and then you realize the first is gone, as are all her allies. Not just dead, but vanished utterly. Even Makina is gone. No sign remains of her passage. The resonance is sealed, the tide's once again at rest. Your siblings are a part of you now. Our journey is concluded. So where did the other cast-offs go? They were creatures of the tides, held together by the skill of your creator. When they lost that connection and were drawn into the resonance, their bodies decohered. I removed their physical remains. Oh, thank you. Are you done hunting me then? Unless you resume your sire's experiments or tamper with tidal energies in some other way, we shall not meet again. It considers its next words carefully. But should you do so, I will not hesitate to destroy you utterly. Our understanding is not a friendship. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Well, team, what's your plan now? Is that Eridus?
I'll be looking for some distance from this whole mess myself. Looking for some air to call my own.
I hear you, man. Excellent plan.
Do? Now? The now has never felt so much like an end until, well, now. I suppose I could find another beginning? That's what I'd like. Saving the world for someone else.
Like, we separated him. Did that only, like, save him in the labyrinth? He seems pretty calm. Hopefully, maybe I kind of release the rest of the hold those nanodemons hold on him. I hope so, but seriously, man, I'm glad to see you again. Go now. Choose a wiser path than your sire, and we will not meet again. The sorrow fades into the air, and then it's gone. Our final choice. Return to Mile of S to rebuild. Set out to atone for what wrongs you've done. Find the new path, a strong one. Or just leave. Yep. And at the end here, let's just head out. We'll figure out our next steps later. You say nothing, surveying the ruin of the Memavira's fortress. It's time, perhaps, for some fresh air and a new perspective. With a deep breath, you set off. Wow. The absence of the cast-offs changed the Ninth World. Sometimes for the better, often for the worst. For the cast-offs were powerful, and seats of power do not remain empty, or uncontested, for long. And yet, they were never seen again. Their minds dwelled on in dull insensate darkness, trapped in a singular mind for eternity, or near enough. You were remembered for your wisdom and selflessness. For many years to come, tales of your life inspired healers to know themselves, to better themselves, and to make the world a better place. That's a nice mark to leave behind. Aligarin sought his friend Orth, but never found him. In despair, he journeyed west, through Agar Kala and into the Steadfast. None could provide him the answers he sought, and he became a dead-eyed mercenary, hurling his living tattoos at abandon. He was a haunted man. He never knew what became of his family, and he never stopped looking. On the day of his death, the tattoos he bore screamed aloud and disappeared. What became of Calistige? No one knows. Some say she wandered into the deserts around Sagas. Others say she was found dead on the streets shortly after the most recent Bloomquake. And others still say she wanders the known world, seeking something forever beyond reach. Seeking a way to atone for his failures, Tiber left Sagas and the Bloom behind, and traveled to the nameless village where he and Avigne had once broken each other's hearts. To his surprise, he found the villagers were still there. The noble that tried to drive him away had been killed by a large masked man many years ago. To his credit, Tiber did not lie to them. He told them who he was and what he'd done, and he swore to protect them until the end of his days. He did, and the villagers forgave him in time. Later, they respected him, and when he died in his sleep decades later, they mourned him as one of his own. Oh. Their hero Eridus was never seen again. But in a nameless field not far from the Valley of Dead Heroes, an aging herdsman drove his newly bought Yule towards a rundown hut. Humming to himself, he rebuilt the hut stone by stone. That night, he slept better than he had in years. He lived out as many years as a stranger to everyone who saw him in the tiny town where he bought his supplies. And one day, a shopkeeper realized he hadn't seen the herdsman in months. That was the last time anyone thought of the man Eridus had become. Rin returned to her world content. She'd rescued the one who had so kindly rescued her. In doing so, she sought closure to a significant part of her life. She'd never forget the last cast-off. As for the rest of her story, that has yet to be written. So glad. Oh, this is the kid at the beginning! Pico's new looks enabled him to gain better jobs in the higher tiers of Sagas Cliffs. Eventually, he landed a job working for Tranquility's hostel in the Caravansary. She tells anyone who will listen the good work he does, and is easy on the eyes to boot, too. Pico hopes one day to take over the place, but Tranquility has other plans for him. The veterans of the Fifth Eye enjoyed their retirement from the psychic wars. They drank and laughed. They retold the same tales to anyone who would listen, until, one by one, their minds faded, and soon there was only Ziobe, drinking with her friends by herself. The tiny construct children of the crippled foreman scattered throughout the city. They began building things at random, much to the consternation of the master foreman. Finally, the master foreman called for his workers to bring the small constructs into him. He was surprised at how much they'd grown. Apparently, they'd been building themselves as well as random parts of the city. He now instructs them, treating them as he does as human workers, although it's clear he favors them more. What's unclear is how well they'll continue to follow his instructions. The quakes beneath Saga's Cliff ceased for many years. Despite Polani's concerns without leverage over them, the Stitcher would return someday. She would stand in the square most days, preaching her fear to whomever would listen. One day, Palai announced that she had evidence the Stitcher had returned. She called for a group of brave souls to follow her beneath the city, to stop them before it was too late. Several of her bravest followers followed her into the dark. No one knows what became of them. With the Endless Gate closed, Ronos and the other surviving memorialists were able to clean and rebuild. There were so few of them left, so it took months before the last of the blood was removed. They used several different barrier ciphers to block the tomb that had held the Endless Gate, in case something else ever came through it. They never did get rid of the smells. Look how nice it looks. The Bloom was relatively quiet for days after the Sorrow's attacks on the Memavira's fortress. Nearly all of the Memavira's soldiers had fled, and the rest of the Bloom's denizens waited quietly, wondering what would happen. When the Memavira did not return, and nobody rose up to take her place, well, that's when the fighting began. It started with the mutants of Little Neelesh, but soon every faction was involved. The blood became a deadly battleground, one the Bloom itself seemed to encourage, engorging itself on the lust of its denizens. Bruska harbored a small contingent of civilians within the fortress, hoping the violence would die down. They're still there, hoping. Nothing I could have done there for you. Cody worked hard at the Bloomflesh shop. He never grew quite as skilled as the Sundermans, but he had enough skill in his own right. Eventually, he expanded their services to woods and metals and became sought after as a carpenter and an engraver. Sometime later, he left the Bloom to make his own way. He started a shop in Circus Minor, fashioning Numenera into polished tools. He made a name for himself in some small way. That's nice to hear. Renard, Artaglio's second, continued in his commander officer's tradition as best he could. Artiglio's irregulars eked out a modest life in Kyurge and Slump even without their leader. When the troubles in the Bloom started, Renard and his men barricaded Kyurge and Slump. They're still there, although the Bloom itself tears down every barricade they erect. They simply build another one, making sure the Slump at least remains safe. The ruins of Mile Vest lie broken and untouched. It's more than a century before a group of explorers stumbles upon them, wondering what happened in this place. What in the Ninth World caused so much destruction? Wow. Alright. Wow. Well, that was amazing. I haven't had so much fun in a game for years and years. This has been fantastic. So I don't know, I guess some thoughts here. So, kind of getting a little choked up. I'm surprised how attached I got to my companions. I mean, when I play these games, I usually do a little bit, but this was really like something special. Usually I'm really immune to having attachment like foisted on me by writers. For example, Eris. Stupid Eris. I kind of miss my team. Especially now that they're all like gone. I mean, like with Rin, I was guilted into taking her. I hated her for kind of a long time, complaining at her about her being, worthless. Then she kind of got to like her, and I actually did some of those favors for us, in the Bloom, like saving slaves and so on. And she turns into a scary battle cleric and then left, and that sucked. I was so happy when she returned, in case you couldn't, and then she left again. So that was kind of a roller coaster. I don't know. I'm glad that most of them turned out well. I'm glad that Tybur was able to kind of make his peace. I'm really sad about, Eridus. I'm really glad that I separated him from the audience, but, I kind of had this idea, that, we'd still be getting together, every couple years, sitting and drinking around a campfire out in the middle of his fields. It doesn't sound like that happened, so that's kind of sad. Yeah, I was really surprised, too, when I thought that the game was ending. That's why, like I said, I was kind of stalling and poking around the platform and trying to figure something else out, because I figured I'd step through the portal and that would, be the end of it. Big set piece, wrap it all up, whatever. But, the following, planes or whatever, really kind of radically altered what I thought I knew. I think of it sort of as, all the places I'd been to up to that point were sort of recast as maybe finding the right questions, not the answers that I thought they'd be. It's hard to even, come up with many examples of what I mean here. There was the Tabat, they kept popping up, and the importance of the city becoming unmoored in time, which turned out to be absolutely crucial in the beginning of the Unchanging God's efforts. Or, rather, I guess that was his first attempt to try to save Mika's life. The Underspine popped up more than once, which is interesting. It seemed critical to this whole thing somehow, but we never really learned anything about it. And all those flashbacks we kept having to that era make a lot of sense, because that was the beginning. That was the inflection point where we first set out on this, crazy quest for immortality and to save our daughter. We kept encountering those stasis chambers. That kind of became a recurring theme. The crystal world that we found, the Ascendants, which apparently yielded the technology that we started to use. The ghostly woman, just all kinds of things that I thought were sort of their own wrapped up little stories turned out to really just be the beginning of questions that I didn't realize that I had. Was also a little surprised at some of the reveals of the identities of the people that I thought I knew. I mean, yeah, that's a standard trope, but I just thought it was really done well, from the Spectre to the Changing God, who turned out to be a backup, and the ghostly woman, who I thought was the Sorrow, who later turned out to be Mika. That was really interesting. Yeah, I really like how we tied the ending right back to the beginning, and then answered some really fundamental questions that had been dropped on us in the beginning, and frankly, I'd forgotten about. You know, we show up in this mysterious room, and everything's new and mysterious to me, so it just didn't seem strange to me that there was this... Well, I mean, the entire environment around me was, you know, this totally alien thing. And it isn't until we made this full circle that I realized that we'd never really answered what those doors were, or what that room was. So that was really cool to have it end up back there. I think that in general, it's extremely difficult to have a satisfying ending to kind of such a rich narrative, especially in a world that you've become so involved with. I think they did it really brilliantly. It really felt like everything I'd done mattered. Not just the final good-evil switch, which, you know, it wasn't, but every small choice had seemed I'd made having these surprisingly long echoes. I mean, not just like Rin, but all sorts of things echoed through towards the end. And I liked how the good-evil neutral choice whatever at the end really wasn't. It seemed like all the choices we could have made were valid, even if some didn't necessarily follow from the persona that I'd acquired through our journey. Yeah, I feel like everything would have worked fine, that there wasn't like a good ending or a bad ending, or maybe 50 different endings that you have to keep doing to finish the story. Hello, Dark Souls. It was just really nice. The world building itself is just astonishing. I was a little iffy on the Valley of the Fallen Heroes, or at least the tomb part, but Sagas Cliffs was really alive to me. Mile of Est had some odd charm, and the bloom was just awful. I mean, I hated the bloom, but not in this like bad design way. The artists and the writers just succeeded so well in making it just awful. I couldn't help but hate it. That was really well done. Even in the more limited worlds we saw through like the Marecasters, they were both really detailed and constructed, and then they managed to leave lots of really interesting unanswered questions. So that was really fantastic. I've never seen a universe so well constructed and so well tied into itself. Just, again, phenomenal. So as for the future, I don't think I'm going to replay, which is strange for me to say. I think it'd be interesting to see other choices and stuff that I've missed. I know for sure, or at least I'm pretty sure, that I missed something interesting because we found that twisted Marecaster but then couldn't use it. That was after we'd come back from the scary Endless Gate thing. I could go back and do that stuff, but I almost think in a lot of ways it might lessen the experience for me. Because I'd already know the optimal routes and the conversation options, like, oh, I don't want to say this because then I'll get whatever. You know, I'd start to min-max. The things that seemed really impactful at the time just wouldn't really matter. Like, Rin wants to leave, like, okay, that's fine. I'll see you again, 2 credits later. That would have been a big deal. Like, after she left, like, I felt bad, like, the whole rest of the day, kind of moping around the house. That was a big deal. So I think that ultimately, I'm going to leave this book closed, so I can remember it the way it was. I might read about other people's trips, but I don't think I'm going to do it again. So, I guess in conclusion, yeah, this has been a really amazing time, and I do want to thank you all just so much for coming with me through this journey. It was a great time, and I hope that you had a good time too. And I hope that we'll meet again for some new adventure. So, take care.